IC Radio Network and UWS strongly promote the use of grassroots patriot music. Please drop us a line and we'll play your music.
All right. Well, thank you very, very much for tuning in today to the United We Strike Marathon. And I guess it wouldn't be the marathon if we didn't have some OSMs, which always seem to happen. And they happen when you're live. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, those are the oh shit moments when you realize something's gone wrong in Skype or there's some kind of thing that you have to fix, and it's always at the last minute. So we apologize if any of you had problems getting the stream. We're up and we're running now, and we're really excited to be here. And I really, really am so grateful for all of the help of Alan from OYMIreland.com, who is our webmaster, who's done excellent work with setting up the pages for the new website. And I also want to thank Detlef and Michael for also joining us, Matt for the work he's done previously, and all of our previous guests and hosts, and let them know that now United We Strike has shifted. It's not just about the 15th, although the 15th is definitely an option, and next month Max Egan will join me and we'll talk about that. But also to know that United We Strike now wants to be a site that connects activists to causes. So we're going to offer information and all sorts of ways that you can get ideas and help to push back. But one of the first things that we have to do if we are going to push back is to truly be able to look within at the darkness inside of ourselves. Because if we cannot face the ugly truth about what's going on in the world today, we're not going to be able to fix it. If we just continue to ignore it, it will grow worse. And right now, I believe that we are in the end times, either for we the people or for the controllers. To that end, I am really looking forward to speaking here with my guest, who I have just met here. Jay Parker is ex-Illuminati. He is an activist. He is part of Mark Passio and Bob Tuscan's yearly Free Your Mind conference. And actually, Mark has been on with us before and helped me coin a phrase because I was struggling for a while with elite. It really bugs me that they think that's such a great word and we should revere them. So I had evil, lying, inbred, traitorous, and I wasn't sure where to go with it, but good old Mark popped in with eugenicists. So the evil, lying, inbred, traitorous eugenicists really are doing everything they can to control our every aspects of our life, as well as to eliminate the majority of us on the planet. And the way that they're doing that is to attack the family. And so both Bob and Mark have been part of our past United We Strike marathons. I'm really happy to have you on, Jay. And I guess what I'd like to do is right off the bat, I'm going to hit you with kind of a hard question because I'd like you to be able to, well, I'd like all the listeners to hear it. It's a question that I've heard from people who were asking me about you when I let them know that I was interviewing you. And this question is there really such a thing as an ex-Illuminati?
Well, that's a great question because you are saying that I was a member of the cult. I was never a member of the Illuminati. Never did I cooperate with these people, my family members. In fact, to say that I'm ex-Illuminati is a complete lie, and I'm sick of hearing this. People don't even look at my interviews or the information I'm putting out. I am not ex-Illuminati. I grew up in a satanic village of Arden, Delaware, which is a government-controlled, mind-controlled village, part of MK Ultra, where 90% of the people I grew up with in Arden, Delaware, were protected by the government and were generational Satanists and human sacrificers and pedophiles. I never joined the cult. I grew up in a Illuminati family, yes, but I never joined the cult. I was part of the Monarch Mind Control program, and I was signaled out for Monarch Mind Control programming because of my high intelligence. Uh, my parents, I believe that my father was arrested for pedophilia in 1959 and decided that instead of going to jail, he would sell his children into the Illuminati mind control program called Monarch. And he moved from Pennsylvania, Fallcroft, to Arden, Delaware. And I don't know if my other brothers were chosen for the Monarch program. I know one, I believe, became cult. One got destroyed like I did. And I went through the training and I did things like remote viewing and I did things like was present during human sacrifice and, I was tortured and gang raped and put through horrific rituals with cattle prods and car batteries. But this story that I'm ex-Illuminati has got to stop because I never joined the cult. And if you look at my website, thecenterpath.weebly.com, you can go to the My Pages section and look at some of my interviews and some of my Free Your Mind conference videos and clearly see that I never joined the cult. I resisted them to the detriment of my entire life. I got my life taken from me through mind control. When I was 6 years old, my best friend was raped so horrifically he died of sepsis 3 days later. And in Arden, Delaware, in the 60s at that time, I simply went to one of the people I knew my parents hated, who lived down the street, who was a Christian. And I told him everything that had gone on in the cult that I knew and where the bodies were buried. And he went to the police, and the police told him, we know what's going on in Arden, and we can't help you in the murder of this child. And after that, they took me to the CIA psychologist who was monitoring all the monarchs in the northern Wilmington area, Gordon Pizer from the University of Pennsylvania. And they electroshocked my mind until I did not even know my name. They wanted to get the memory of the murder of my friend Brandon Ploner out of my mind. And then they took me out of school and placed me in 6 months of hard torture and relentless mind control to make me a monarch slave.
How old were you?
I was 6 years old. 6 years old when I rebelled completely against them and tried to get the police to do something.
So that's what woke you up, because I was curious about that.
That didn't wake me up. No. See,
okay.
Stop with these interjections.
Okay.
That didn't wake me up. I became a monarch slave after that. Okay.
But you were tortured prior to that, so I'm just forgive me if my.
I mean, anyone that grows up in a satanic family and 10, 12 to 15% of the human race, are part of the dark occult. I mean, Mark Passy will tell you this. I will tell you this. Stuart Swerdlow will tell you this. David Icke will tell you this, that there is probably 15% of the human race population that are given over to the archonic, spirit, which is not from this dimension and wants to destroy the planet and the human race. And they don't care. Once they get an entity attached to them after they decide to go cold, I mean, they're no longer human. And through the programmable state, the first 6 years of life, when you are tortured and raped and ritually abused, and this has been going on for thousands of years since the Babylonian cults and the Egyptian cults, and my mother traces her Illuminati heritage and dark occult heritage back to the Amalekite people, 1000 BC, 2000 BC.
It definitely, it seems like a real plan. And the more that I research, and I have listened to a few of your interviews, and so it seems like we should, instead of ex-Illuminati, you're an ex-Illuminati victim or an MK Ultra victim.
Yeah, I am a overcomer of monarch mind control. I am not a survivor. To survive does not mean that you have pushed on to the positive end of the spectrum. It just means that you've gotten through the horrific torture and mind control. So
right.
I don't consider myself even a survivor. I consider myself an overcomer.
That's powerful. Words are very powerful, and I would agree.
Well, that's why I get really upset when people say I'm Illuminati. And what's it like to be in the cult, Jay? Well, I wouldn't be able to tell you because I was never in cult. I was trained to be Illuminati, and I would stand in a room of child rapists and mass murderers at 4 years old, and they would conjure up the Marquis of Hell, and my mother would say to me, "This is God," and I would say to her, "That's not God."
Well, then, so you sensed really early on that something was wrong. I guess that would be a better way to...
I knew from the get-go that these people were crazy. You've got to be kidding me. They want to go against nature. They want to go against the Creator. Well, good luck with that. It doesn't matter if they destroy this world, which they are doing. Anybody can see that they are destroying the world and ecologically and destroying the human race genetically. I mean, all you have to do is look at the eugenics program that's ongoing through the GMOs, the vaccines, and the geoengineering. They are eliminating the human race.
Right. It's all about control and eugenics, and I was very taken by...
It's not about control. It's about genocide.
Well,
in 1963, my parents told me that the rank and file Illuminati, who do the rituals, who do the raping, who do the killing for the elites, okay, all right, for the DuPonts and Rockefellers and Rothschilds, who go along to get along in this sopistic satanic society, all right, they were... In 1963, my mother worked for the DuPonts as a mind controller and a teacher at their school called the Pilot School. And she was the one who destroyed the DuPont heir, John DuPont, and turned him into a murderer. And that's an interesting story. But I just want to say that, this has got to stop. I never became cult. And I woke up around the year 2000 when a witch a woman who I was dating, who was a witch, I was a well-known monarch slave, and she decided she was going to make me her slave, and she was fishing around for the hand signals and code words to open up my programming so that she could put her own little spin to it and make me her slave. Well, what she did was use my mother's primary programming phrase. She opened up the file, but did not know what to do after that. And so all my memories came back, and I was roughly about, 44 years old at the time. But so from the time I was 6 years old to the time I was, 44, I was a monarch slave, and I worked as a contractor carpenter, and I went from one Illuminati businessman to another and worked for, peanuts compared to what I was, worth. And it was not a happy life because I
Well,
had etheric attachments. I had spiritual attachments that really messed me up. And I had about 7 different primary altars. And
when you,
it was hell.
I have no doubt. When you say, though, you knew things were wrong early on, so their programming really was to completely embed within you that cognitive dissonance where you just would forget from the torture. You would forget and compartmentalize into a different personality that was able to deal.
I mean, what people need to study in this world today is simply the programmable state, the first 6 years of life. Without this knowledge, people are just intellectually masturbating. And that's what all of this is. It's nothing but, thank God for Max Eakin, and thank God for a few people like Dr. Joe Dispenza and Dr. Bruce Lipton. And of course, there's Tom Campbell, who wrote My Big Toe. And there's people like Dr. Teller and Candace Pert, MD, who are talking about the physiology and the psychology that makes up human beings. And we're talking about we are a programmable species. And the Illuminati know this. And what they do is they negatively program their minions. And sure, they have to rape them, they have to torture them, they have to expose them to reptilian entities and to devil spirits, but eventually they'll get the chemical and the neurological synaptic pathways so warped, and the mind with all the different traumas producing these amnesic barriers, which just cause so many alters and shattered personality. I don't even want to go into it, but the main thing I talk about now, and my website, thecenterpath.weebly.com, has my interviews under Jay's pages and has information and videos that will change your life. And I am simply saying to everyone, we can talk until we're blue in the face. The Illuminati don't care if we talk about them. In fact, they love it. I mean, they love the dark occult, love the fact that we're like pointing at them, screaming, oh my God, look at what they're doing. We live in a consciousness construct of a consensus reality. I mean, it all stems from the 40 million bits of information that the subconscious gives to the field, and the 4 million bits of information that the conscious mind gives every second. And that is what makes up reality. It goes into this field of almost infinite energy and infinite ability. It's quantum ability. And it just boomerangs back to you, this transference of information, and it creates your life. And so we, in this society, this mind-controlled world that we live in, and if you look at this information that David Icke talks about and Mark Passio, I mean, all you can do is come to the realization that we live in a complete mind-controlled society that was built from the ground up by the dark occultists for fourth-dimensional entities that live off of the energy from the suffering of humanity. And
now, have you seen these entities? Because I believe definitely that we're spirit and we're having a human experience, and it's very difficult when you are down here and you see what the hell is going on around you. And I completely understand you being also, incensed at being connected with a group who were just totally abusing and victimizing you. It's also hard to pull in all of the theories that are around about how we're in charge of everything, we create our life, but we didn't create all the illnesses that we're facing. We didn't create all of our schisms. At least I don't believe so. I do believe now that we have been interfered with. And for those of us who really understand how deep this is going, and thank you, because obviously I wasn't clear enough, and I meant no insulting at all. But
No, I just simply, I'm not angry at you. I am
sure.
just tired of hearing this. Okay, that's all.
Right. Well, I hadn't heard you really get into this depth in the other interviews I listened to, so I very much appreciate that. And we did have a question come in during this time from David, and he says that, okay, that if we know all this is going on, well, he says, suffice to say, these are sick guys. We've known this, so what are we going to do about it?
Well, okay, so let's just start at square one. All right. We are in, according to Tom Campbell and according to my mother, who was a really good mind control specialist for the DuPont family. Okay. In fact, she programmed John DuPont to implode, and she said to my father in 1966, the program will not kick in for 25 years. And 25 years to the day later, John DuPont murdered his wrestler friend, Mr. Schultz, and spent the rest of his life in jail. And the plot was simply that by making John DuPont go ballistic, okay, his other DuPont relatives would go into court, which they did, and petition the court to seize legal control of his fortune because he was insane, quote unquote. But John DuPont had really good lawyers, and he retained control of his fortune, and the plot failed. But I just want to say to you that, these people are vipers. They will destroy even members of their own family for selfish gain. I mean, you talk about honor among thieves. There is no honor among the dark occult. It's dog eat dog.
Are they human, or they're infected? Tell us about your.
They are human, but they have a human body. But their consciousness and their what is motivating and giving them high technology and steering them to this transhumanist agenda, okay, and the destruction of our planet and our species is a other dimensional consciousness, which is called the demiurge, or whatever you want to tag it as, the archons,
jinn, reptilians,
whatever you want to say. I mean, I've actually seen, I have static memories of being in the presence of reptilians. I have memories of my entire family being abducted by the gray aliens. They are very interested, the gray aliens, in mind-controlled social people like dark occult people, because they get to look at these synaptic pathways and learn how they can do it to us themselves. And
I've heard a rumor that the Greys actually are. Well, I've heard two kind of different things. That once the Greys are a future incarnation of ourselves and all the genetic manipulation.
Yes, this is a lie that they told me, that they were from 500 years in the future. They were human beings. This is such a load of malarkey.
Are they reptilian? Are they reptilian
I don't know
servants?
Exactly what they are, and I'll tell you the truth. When it really comes down to it, I'm getting tired of talking about, this, that, and the other thing. The real problem with humanity is this mind control that we get from society in the programmable state from conception to where we get, 3 brainwave patterns when we're about 6 or 7 years old. In the first 6 years of life, you get your subconscious from your parents and from your society. We live in a satanic, dark occult controlled society. This subconscious runs 95% of your beliefs, and it filters everything in your life. Okay? It controls you completely. I don't care what Mark Passio or Michael Tazarian or Jordan Maxwell or any of these people, talk about when it comes to the history of the dark occult or whatever you want to talk about, the eugenics program or whatever. It's all great information. But the bottom line to all of this is, okay, we've got a serious problem. We're being exterminated. What do we do about it? Okay, I'll tell you, the only thing we can do about it is get out of the mind control program so we cannot be, Stockholm Syndrome, go along to get along cowards and stand up and fight. Well, you can't do that unless you get the programming out of your subconscious. I don't care that people tell me that through just getting the information, that is good enough to alleviate the situation, because you can read all of Michael Tazarian or Mark Passio's information and get it into your conscious mind. That is only 5% of the human brain, mind, body connection. It's only 5% of the information going into the divine field. So if you want to change this consensus reality, you're going to have to go into the subconscious and rewrite the program so that the divine field does a different paradigm. Okay? And
how do you
nobody
do that?
wants to hear this. How do you do that? Well, why is it? I'm just asking a question that why is all the people in the peace and freedom movement not talking about energy psychology, not talking about natural law? I mean, they're all finger pointing at, it's these, it's them, it's that, this is going on with Bilderberg. I'm not saying that the information isn't true. I'm not saying it's not valid, but I'm saying it's, as David Icke says, it's the person in the mirror that you have to deal with in a consensus reality holodeck. It's the person in the mirror. It's you. If you change your subconscious through energy psychology, like Psyche, like emotional freedom technique, and you start tapping and changing the synaptic pathways and the beliefs in your subconscious, and get rid of the belief in authority, get rid of the belief in these false religions. All the unified field is love. It's an open system. It's a communicative system of growth. And what we see with these people who have the fourth dimensional entity in them is they want to shut this thing down. They want to shut this thing down yesterday. Okay?
Right.
And
I know.
All we can do. Go ahead.
Well, you were kind of asking a question, and it's very interesting to me. And it's one thing too that I allowed to make myself sick because I was so frustrated about, I would say that I had righteous anger because I did know what was going on, and I don't believe that people need to be victimized by bullies. I have always had a huge aversion to bullies. And at the same time, I very much am a fan of what Mark Passio's done and Larkin Rose. And I feel very strongly that there's a possibility for us to have an aha moment when enough of us do step into this consciousness field. And I want to thank you for your references to Gary Craig. Through listening to you, I checked him out on EFT.com, the emotional frequency tapping, and it is working, but it's not the only thing that works. Some people can heal really quickly. I'm having a lot of issues. I'm kind of updating stuff like that on my blog page, but the more I learn, the better I get. And really, I know living foods are important, and also self-ownership. I think that we really have lost track of the fact that we are each a unique individual expression of life. And this source of life that's within us is within everything. And so it's a really interesting and yet complex theory to think, okay, now if enough of us get together and we really focus on imagining the better world and we take steps in our life, we can create it. But it's so much better to at least go in that direction than to look at these old dogmatic religions that keep you being unworthy, because all of us are worthy. We were loved into existence, and no matter how many words on a piece of paper or buttons or badges or bullies somebody brings with you to force you to do something, it does not make it right. It does not make it moral. And that's the quandary. How do we really get people to just stop and listen? And I think what you're doing with exposing all the pedophilia and what actually happens to millions of people globally, millions of children who are abused so terribly like this and so traumatized, we need to know that we can go beyond it. So I'm grateful to have this conversation with you. And we also need to lose our fear of death. If you believe that you go on, you got to lose your fear of death. But again,
well, you're touching on a few things here that I definitely want to talk about. But all I have to say is, David Icke makes a great point and so does Bruce Lipton. Okay, you through your conscious mind have an aha moment, and that's exactly what Mark Passio and Larkin Rose and so many others in the Truth and Freedom movement will say. You can see the problem, quote unquote, superficially. You can see the eugenics program. You can see the control system. You have an aha moment, okay? Now, you can do what you can to not destroy yourself with GMOs and not take vaccinations, and to feed yourself good information from reliable sources like Michael Tessarion, Jordan Maxwell, etc. Okay, you can feed your intellect, but you're still dealing with the 5% of your brain. Okay? And this fallacy that just by cleaning up the 5% of the conscious mind and trying to walk correctly in alignment and harmony with the divine field is a lie. It's a lie. Unless you do the shadow work of, and I'm serious about this, unless you do the shadow work of using an energy psychology or using the meditation techniques of Dr. Joe Dispenza, okay, with, his guided meditations are excellent. And I'm just saying that this is my mother said to me when I was rebelling, when I was, just before 6 years old, I mean, they had a real problem with me. And I was literally going to kindergarten telling the other rape victims that we have to say no. And, it got me into a lot of torture situations. But I just want to say that David Icke says, and I think this is the great way to put it, okay? If you are looking to change the paradigm by any other modality than change your subconscious communication with the divine field, you are not doing the shadow work and you are not seeing things correctly. We have to get the subconscious programming, the sophistic programming, the satanic programming that was given to us by our culture out of our subconsciouses, and thereby unite with the divine field through natural law that Mark Passio teaches, and Larkin Rose, and there's so many others, but not too many. And the subconscious, once it's, you use energy psychology to get rid of the belief in authority, to get rid of so many religious and cultural beliefs that are not in alignment and harmony with natural law. And you can tap on these things and get them out. And you can do positive meditation, okay, that Joe Dispenza talks about. And he's doing excellent work. Heart Math Institute is doing excellent work. The war is going to be lost unless it is a change in consciousness, not a change in the conscious mind, which is 5% of what makes up this consensus reality. My mother said the most important thing to the Illuminati, and this is where she gave me the keys to the kingdom, the most important thing to the dark occult, to the Illuminati, is the subconscious, collective subconscious mind. They don't care if you consciously become like Mark Passio. They could care less. Oh, we just lost 5% of our input into the field by a person cleaning up their conscious mind and knowing truth from error. Oh, great. Well, we still got a 10-to-1 margin in the subconscious. So who cares whether the conscious mind is cleaned up? When you clean the subconscious mind up, and this is what Jesus Christ said, and okay, let's just say this about Jesus Christ. Whether you believe he existed or not, there is a lot of spiritual truth in what he is said to have said. And one of the things that is spiritually true that he is said to have said is, on the outside, you're like whitewash. You're beautiful. And in the conscious mind, these people are beautiful. But in the subconscious, in where it really counts, they are like a rotten sepulcher because they have not committed to the divine field and to natural law to the point where they'll do the shadow work that is required to change the paradigm.
Well, that's why they start vaccinating us so early and try and make it so we don't even think that we have any power. And one thing I would also like to add, I looked into the EFT, which is really great, and I've also just recently picked up a book called Medical Medium by Anthony William, and I've put information here on my blog because I've been dealing with illness for a long time too. And I think one of the things that's part of the mind control here is I was under the assumption that everything that I thought I brought into creation, and it was my fault that my body was breaking down. And actually, it's a combination because our bodies are not set up to digest and live with a constant barrage of the war against us, which is everywhere. And if people really don't realize by now that the governments have declared war upon us, then they need to break through. But changing...
They've never done anything but that.
Well, changing a diet is essential, and it turns out that fruits and vegetables are much more important than I realized. And I want to encourage people to check out my blog, and you too, Jay, if you haven't heard of Anthony William, he's very interesting. He's a psychic as well. He's a medium who is somewhat on the Edgar Cayce side, he claims, and this is day 3 now of raw food with the exception of a little bit of salmon that I had, but I'm already noticing finally I feel better, and he's calling these things mystery illnesses that we're diagnosed with that can be, lupus, Epstein-Barr. They can put a whole lot of things in there that I would fall under.
What's going on? We are being sprayed like cockroaches.
Right.
Carnicorn Institute talks about the biologicals in the spray. I mean, come on, the nanotech, the Morgellons, the cell towers. I make orgonite, okay, for cell tower protection. My orgonite, I have a picture of a woman who took a Carillion photograph without the orgonite. Her aura is 5 different shades of colors, and also it's about an inch from the top of her crown chakra, okay, from her head. She held my pendant in her hand. The aura got homogenized into a golden color, okay, one color, which is basically the color of divine connection. And the top of her head was like 16 inches high of her aura because her 10th, 9th, 10th chakras got opened up, 8th, 9th, and 10th. And we have a 15 chakra system. But anyway, I just want to say that you can comb the mirror and say, why isn't this changing? Or you can actually go into the subconscious and actually comb your hair.
We do have to look within because it all starts here.
But I mean, I've been hearing this from the New Age for years. Okay,
well,
look within,
it's not our
go
fault,
within.
though.
No, the crux of the matter is clean up your subconscious, do your shadow work, as Michael Tazarian say. Do the shadow work. Admit the fact that your subconscious, which runs 95% of your life, which goes into the field, 95% of the human race's information comes from the subconscious. Until we clean the subconscious up, you cannot get a paradigm shift. Period. End of story.
Well, I think, though, you also have to start on the physical side and recognize that our bodies truly are vehicles.
You see, again, you're putting the cart before the horse. I'm saying that the most primary thing is doing the shadow work and cleaning up the morphogenic field. Okay. If you don't clean up the morphogenic field, you're not going to have a shot at this. And I'm getting tired of people saying, we got to do this, we got to do that. The first things first is to get in alignment and harmony with natural law. And that means studying Mark Passio's work and doing the shadow work that Michael Tazarian says. Clean up your subconscious. And when you clean up your subconscious, you become one with the field. And then you have power to go on vegan diets, to go raw if you want to. What I'm saying is people are trying to change, but they are combing the mirror. If you really want change in yourself and in society, you have to do the shadow work and you have to do EFT or Psyche or swaying or something. Okay? And this is coming from someone that had to reintegrate their entire psyche and had to get out of years of cattle prod, mind control programming.
Well,
the worst programming available to the world. I got out of it because I used energy psychology and I made my life my own. And this is the thing I'm telling everybody is learn it today. Do the tapping, the long tapping method that Gary Craig recommends. Gary Craig will teach you everything you want to know about EFT. The ego, which is given to you by the pedophiles, okay, basically is there to keep you as a slave. Reunite with the divine field. Change the morphogenic field that you're calling for. The information that you call into being comes out of the programming in your subconscious. And I know I'm being a real a-hole screaming and yelling at you, but I'm gotten to the point now where it's like, how much mirror combing can we do?
Well, it's okay.
It's almost like believing that Donald Trump is going to save us.
Right. That's
how
very
ridiculous
interested.
It is.
And thank you. You know, sometimes it's semantics, but I think that overall we're talking about much of the same stuff. Hopefully you'll be able to join us on the round table and it'll be flushed out. But we have to go right now because Alan is coming up and he's got a guest. And really, thank you, because this actually is one of the more in-depth conversations that I've heard in terms of speaking with someone who has been victimized. And we really appreciate it here at United We Strike. The centerpath.weebly.com is Jay Parker's email. You have 5 seconds.
I just want to say that I'll see you in a half hour. And
awesome.
Maybe we can talk a little more about what do we need to do. And I think cannabis is the number one thing to bring down the New World Order.
I agree. I know Rick Simpson as well. Here, let me light up a bowl because I'm in Oregon. I'll be back in a half hour. All right. Thanks, guys. I'll be right back. Detlef, over to you.
This is United We Strike Radio on the International Community Radio Network. Don't buy, don't comply, ask why. UnitedWeStrike.com radio.